Hi, friends. I'm Nancy Fox.
And I'm Elaine Doran, and welcome to Deep Diving Divas. And do not go away because we have got a powerhouse guest here. And if it's anything legal you want to know about, this is the man, Fred Fenster. He's a top LA attorney. He goes toe to toe in business disputes with major corporations, sports legends with Pete Rose, Pete Sampras. He's even worked as a legal consultant for Judge Judy, but he's got some advice.
Wow. I love that. And Fred is here to share advice on family battles. Maybe that rings a bell for you. Inheritance issues and estranged relatives. So with that, let's all go to court with Fred Fenster.
Hey there, friends, it's Nancy and Elaine. They're the Deep Diving Divas, it's quite a name. They're diving deep into the things that matter most, from friendships to family and so much more. Join them each week for a splash of fun.
Hi, Freddie. So nice to meet you.
It's such a pleasure to be here.
It is great to have you here, Freddie. This is going to be a fun day, but I have a little secret, and I'm not sure if Freddie remembers or not. I'll be crushed if he doesn't, but Freddie and I went on a few dates when we were in high school. Yes, we
Please
did.
do tell.
I know. He'd come and pick me up in his red Thunderbird, T-Bird. I don't even know if they call them T-Birds anymore. But I have to say, Freddie, when we went out, he's like this grown-up, very sophisticated, very smart. And I thought, geez, this guy is like a grown-up man I'm dating. And we were in the same class. But you know what? Today, he's like a kid. But he also is one of the top lawyers in the city, and it is a pleasure and honor. And he and his wife, Andrea, we are wonderful friends. And that's a great story, too, to tell you how that's happened over the last couple of years. So that's enough of me. So let's go.
All right, let's dive in, Freddie. You shared, actually, Elaine shared with me that you started your love of law as a kid. Explain that one.
Well, when I was 12 years old and it was summertime, I didn't know what I was going to do. I told my mother I did not want to go to camp and I did not want to watch television all day. So she said, I have the perfect solution. And I said, what's that? She said, I'm going to drop you off at the courthouse and you can watch civil and criminal cases.
I thought she was sending you off to jail. No camp. You don't want camp. You want jail? Okay, we're going to the court.
So that's what I did. And I was so fascinated by what was going on. And I decided it's what I wanted to do for a living.
Incredible.
Is that amazing? I mean, so Freddie, I mean, because you love the court and you love doing litigation, but, you know, courtrooms can be pretty intense. And I just wonder, do you have the funniest thing that ever happened or the most outrageous thing that's ever happened to you in court?
Yeah, one funny example was I was a summer associate working for a criminal defense firm. And the lawyer that I was working with was asked how he was going to plead his client who was up for 6 counts of murder. And so the lawyer said, we'll plead guilty and seek 3 weeks in traffic school, Your Honor.
Oh, oh, that is so funny.
What kind of law do you typically practice, Freddie?
I do business litigation. So I'm in court all the time with disputes involving people who own businesses or people who are fighting each other because of the will that came out and they're not satisfied with what they got, or divorce on the business side, lots of different areas, which allows me to meet a lot of different people and learn a lot about different subjects.
You know, has there ever been a moment in your life where you maybe felt that the stakes were high? I mean, you know, was it ever life-threatening? Because you've dealt with some crazy people and things out there.
Well, I think the answer is if you were a lawyer who gives a damn about people, the most important cases are those which are going to have an impact on the people who are involved in it. When you're dealing with corporations, it's a matter of transfer of money. It's not a big deal. But if somebody's life is at stake, both physically or economically, and you know that that's on your shoulders, that becomes an extraordinarily difficult case because you can become emotionally involved and attached to it. And you want to make sure that the outcome is accurate. And if the outcome is what you expect and what you anticipate, there's a tremendous amount of good feeling that comes from it. And some of the closest people that I'm friendly with were the result of representations where they were at issue and it was something that was very risky, and I got them out of the situation.
That's interesting, Freddie, because I have friends that are attorneys that maybe started out with family law or divorce law. And actually, one or two of them got out of it because, for the reasons that maybe you liked it and maybe leaned in, they found it incredibly vicious and very personal, very emotional. So how do you deal with how do you stay, professional, but, warm and endearing? Like what's your take on it?
You have to be empathetic. If you can understand what your clients are going through, then you should know how to deal with them, which is separate from the litigation side of it. So knowing what people want and knowing what's important to them is going to shape how you try to settle a case or how you're going to try it to bring out what it is that people are going to relate to.
Can you give us an example of a case that you've worked on where you felt probably more emotionally involved, or what was the situation?
Well, there is one case that I can remember from years ago where the people involved were a brother and his brother, and I'll call him the bad brother, decided to file a lawsuit against the good brother, and they were both from Taiwan, and bad brother had lots of contacts and essentially precluded good brother from going there because there were all kinds of arrest warrants that had been issued, all of them false, all of them fake.
Oh
And so we had
my.
this major case here where bad brother filed a lawsuit that was really critical in terms of what it meant or could mean to the financial future of good brother. And so we went to trial, and it was a 3-week trial. And at the end of the trial, I gave a closing statement that was 10 minutes. The other lawyer gave a closing statement, which was 2 hours.
Oh,
And then the lawyer who gave the 2-hour closing statement said to the judge, I think you want to take this under submission. And the judge said, no, everything Mr. Fenster said, I agree with.
oh,
That's incredible. Yeah. So, when you have, there's a lot of good judges out there. Of course, there's bad judges, but if somebody's really smart and gets it and has the experience, they probably weed through, right? They can see through a bad situation.
Well, let's put it this way. Lawyers are very inventive at creating arguments. Lawyers are very bad at camouflaging those arguments. So if you have a smart judge, the judge will see exactly what's going on and will say, okay, this case is really about X or Y. So in all of my opening statements to the jury, I don't sugarcoat it one way or the other. I say, here are the facts that you're going to hear. And when you hear those facts, hopefully, I'm not going to say this to the jury, but the conclusion is that they're going to spine on my side. And what's really interesting is 80% of jurors, after opening statement, decide the case in exactly the same fashion that they would have after they heard opening statement. So they see all of the evidence through the lens of the conclusion that they made after the opening statement. So therefore, you want to be able to connect with the jury. You want to humanize your client. You want to make them understand what's at stake. So they say, oh, yeah, I agree with it.
isn't it? Do you feel like you need to have some acting blood in you to be a litigation lawyer? And when you're talking to that jury, what are you kind of visualizing when you're seeing them?
Well, I'll tell you that there's hundreds of thousands of dollars that people pay for jury consultants. I go to game show hosts and the showrunners, and I say, I want you to tell me about these jurors in 30 seconds. Who do I want? Who do I don't want? And because they're making these snap decisions all the time with their television shows, they give me more insight than anybody else does. So people look at me and they say, what are you, crazy? And I say, no, I think they're very accurate in terms of what they assess.
Huh.
That's really that's fascinating. What do you do when the stakes are really high? I mean, how do you deal with the pressure? I mean, when you're representing somebody, you basically have their lives in your hands. So how do you deal with it?
You silo your emotions. In other words, you have to say, this is the critical case. Here are the critical issues, and I have to think about them with no emotion involved. And all of the input from the client that's emotional, you have to disregard. Because once you get in a situation where you're deflecting your important viewpoint, then what's going to happen is you're going to lose a case.
Well, let me just ask you, I mean, talking about emotions, families can implode when they're talking about wills and inheritance.
They always do, and it's the worst kind of case you can have. It's worse than a divorce.
So what kind of advice would you give to parents who are trying to keep peace in the family, or tell us about some examples of situations where, you've got siblings that are fighting, or parents or kids fighting with their parents, or kids are estranged. I mean, I know you have a lot of those situations.
Here's the thing that you should look at. If you have money, there are 3 things you can do. Spend it. Therefore, your kids can't argue about it. You can give it away while you're alive, in which case you enjoy what the results are. Or you can husband it all up because you don't know if you're going to need it. Do a will and then die and then watch your kids fight about it. But since you're dead, you can't really see it. So the problem is that everything you do in a will has consequences. So if you say, I want to divide, I have 2 children, and I want them each to have a 50% interest in a piece of property, what happens after the parents are gone and one says, I want to sell it, and the other says, I don't? You've got an immediate fight. What if the parents say, well, I'm going to give you property A and your sister property B, and then I'm going to give your brother property C and D? What happens if the values of those properties are totally different at the time of death than they were at the time he did the will? All of a sudden, mom is giving you more, or dad is giving you more than me, and that's not fair. And then you hear the old line from the Smothers Brothers, Mom always liked you best, and I'm not going to allow that to happen. So they get really angry at each other, and they don't care about what the outcome is. It's like, if I can't get what I want, I'm going to deplete the estate so there's nothing left. And I see a lot of that.
So how do you prevent it? What do you recommend if we were coming in as clients and we were setting up a will to be fair to our families? What do you recommend for your clients?
What are your objectives? And then let's bring the kids in here and have them be a part of the process.
Wow.
Because most of the time when you do a will, nobody is allowed to see it until it's a death, because you might try to influence the parents.
Yeah.
So I say, look, this is my estate plan. This is what I want. And then sometimes you'll hear a kid say, I don't want you to control me from the grave. If you're going to give it to me, and I'll do what I want with it. If you don't want to do that, then don't.
So you then encourage them to make it public ahead of time before they die.
Yes.
What it is.
I think it's really critical. I mean, if you have a major business and you want your kid to run the business, you better make sure your kid wants to run the business.
Yes. These surprises that happen.
So, and most people don't want to run their parents' businesses. I mean, the Rockefellers are a great example of the contrary. But lots of times they say that wealth goes the following way. I'm rich, my kids will be fine, and my grandkids will be broke. And the reason is because they'll go through whatever I give them. By the time they're dead, it's gone.
Yes.
So then you say, well, I want to bypass the kids. I'll give you a certain amount, but I want my grandkids.
Yeah.
Okay, if one has kids and the other doesn't, how do you make amends for that? So everything that you want to do has a consequence, and you have to sit down with the family and say, this is what I want to do. Then I recommend that every 5 years you come back and do it again, because things have changed during that 5-year period.
Right.
Parents may suddenly get wealthy, or they may suddenly get poor, or they may have investments that may or may not develop into something that's positive. So the only way to know that is to keep tabs on it and monitor what's going on. And also the other thing is, and I'll tell you one story that's very funny. I have a very famous client who was a lawyer, and when his son was nice to him, he was in the will. When his son was not nice to him, he signed a codicil. In the last 2 years of his life, he signed 31 codicils, depending upon whether his kid came to see him or not.
Okay, so tell me, a codicil, I take it that means cut him out of the will.
No, a codicil is an amendment to the will. So you file an amendment which says, you think you're getting this right? Nah, I'll be gone.
So then what does that do for their family relationship while they're alive? I mean, the son knows he's in, he's out. If he's good, he's get the money. I mean, do you let them know if that's the problem?
It begets more problems because there's a lot of tension. And then the kid says, you're trying to control me with money. And the parent says, I want to make sure that you use the money for the right purpose. That's why you start that process early on. And I mean,
that's really good that to do it early on. And I've never heard anybody say, have everybody there, everybody in the room. So there's no secrets. I think that would solve a lot of problems.
Well, but then the problem is they get married and their spouses say, I don't want that. And the answer is, well, the spouse is not involved. This is going to my kid. So if the spouse doesn't like it, let them argue about it. But at least what I'm trying to do is set the table so that everybody's in a situation where everybody knows what will happen.
Wow. And if that is fascinating.
In general, Freddie, then if your client comes to you for this help, do they generally take your advice?
Yes.
They do.
And the reason is because
Or they fire you.
The reason is I try to accommodate their needs. You know, if I know what you want, I can get you to that objective. And if I can't get you there, I'll tell you why I can't get you there, but an alternative that will get somebody something that they otherwise wouldn't have received, but is compensation. I mean, one of the things just a simple example, we have a thing when somebody dies, and let's say that you have a house that's worth $10 million, hypothetically. Person dies, okay? And the kids get the house and they get it tax-free. That's federal tax. But the property value goes up. So now you get assessed at $10 million. So if you thought, for example, that you could lease the house and make a lot of money, now you have to add taxes are going to be 1.5% of $10 million. And you say to yourself, it's not worth owning anymore. I might as well sell it. Because when I sell it, the basis, which is the price that it's going to be judged at, is what it was worth on the date of death. So if I get a $10 million house and sell it tomorrow, I have no tax. If I get a $10 million house and hold on to it, I have a whole lot more tax to pay. So the dynamic changed because the economy changed, because houses are worth more money today. So that's why you look every 5 years and you say to yourself, okay, where are we now? Where do we want to be? And how do we get there?
That's a really good point because, yeah, it's not fixed. It's variable. And year after year, the laws change, situations change. So that's great advice.
You know, Freddie, just on another topic, I think you mentioned to me a couple of weeks ago, and I was so surprised because I thought I knew a lot about your background, but it always is unraveling, that you were a consultant on the Judge Judy show. What was that about? What did you do?
There was a company called Big Ticket, and it was a television company, and they watched 60 Minutes one day, and Judge Judy Scheinlin, who was in court, but she was with kids, and so she was dealing with lawyers who had been appointed to address the issues that the kids had. And she would be on the bench, and she'd say to the lawyer, please answer this question, and the lawyer didn't know the answer, and she'd say, look, I'm sitting up here, you're making the big bucks, and I know more about your case than you do. So I'm going to tell you what I want you to do. I want you to go out in the hall. I want you to learn what I'm asking you and come back. And when you think you're ready, we can talk about the benefits of the kids. So a guy named Larry Little said, you know, that is really an interesting person. So I represented the showrunner that when they were putting the show together, and they said, she's going to be great on television because she's got this no-nonsense attitude. She's all about 4 feet, 10 inches tall with a big mouth. Yeah. And she uses it all the time. And I think it's popular because people say, I would never get caught doing that. I wouldn't put myself in that position. So they feel good about themselves. So they said to me, would you be the lawyer on the show? So I met Judy, and she said, well, I'm from New York. I don't know California law. Would you tell me California law? So we spent a lot of time going over California law. And she said, you know what? There are no laws that are going to govern me. I'm going to do what I feel like. Yeah, so she did it.
And boy, did she, right?
Yeah, she's the highest paid person ever in the history of television at that kind of a role.
What was the consensus? Look at the public loves her show, but from the backstory, the attorneys, what do you think? What for you, your colleagues, did they like her take?
No, because it's unrealistic, but she's a kick and a half. I mean, she is so much fun. She has an opinion on everything. And one of her first books was Don't Pee on My Leg and Tell Me It's Raining.
Oh,
irreverent? Absolutely.
But is it all set up or is it real? I mean,
no, it's real.
It's real cases.
And people like to go there because if they're a defendant, the show pays money that is awarded against them.
Oh.
And also they get a chance to shine and be on television.
Yes, everybody wants their, a minute of fame, right? So that people do line up.
And it's
that is just a wild story.
It's very highly regarded. And Larry Little and a bunch of the people at Big Ticket retired with lots of money.
Isn't it?
Oh. So you don't have to have 20 shows on television. If you have one that's really successful, you can do well.
Incredible. So Freddie, at this stage, I know you're still practicing, right? What, a lot of people have had a huge success like you have and say, you know what, I'm ready to kind of hang it up, but you're still going strong. So what gets you so excited to get out of the bed and get motivated to get back in your office every day?
The challenge. Every time I meet a new client, there's a new challenge. And I love challenges and problem solving. And the bottom line is I enjoy what I'm doing. And as my father used to say, the dirtiest word in the English language is retirement. What are you going to do once you retire? And too many people that I know, after they retire, go downhill very, very quickly because they get up in the morning and they say, why? What am I going to do? I don't have anything to do. And you know the old saw that a woman gives to her husband and says, I married you for better or worse, but not for lunch. And so the problem is the relationship changes. So better if you enjoy what you do. Work is not a 4-letter word.
Huh. I mean, and from being with Freddie and Andrea and on a trip with them, I mean, Freddie, you get up at what time in the morning? Like, what's your morning like? Because you just go, go, go.
I get up at 3:30 in the morning. I read the paper.
Why? Wait a minute. Why do you get up at 3:30 in the morning?
Because I only need 4 hours of sleep.
Oh my goodness.
And then I work out, and then I read the paper, and then I go to the office. And by the time my secretary arrives at 9:00, she's 2 hours behind.
Oh, that's so well. Have you had the same team for a long time? How many
Yes.
years has your secretary been with
Yes.
you?
As I say to people, I'm the easiest person to work for and the worst person to work for because I'm easygoing, but the work was really continuous. You don't have to worry about being bored.
That's wild. Freddie, we're going to have to go. So is there anything you'd like
gosh.
to share before we close?
Yeah, I would like to say to anybody who wants to be a lawyer, it is a wonderful profession because you get to be a semi-expert in so many different areas. And as long as you keep your ego in check and listen to what people have to say, you're going to have a very enjoyable life.
That's great.
I know we're probably running out. I do want to add that Freddie is an adjunct professor at USC School of Law. And so many of these students, I think even now you say they come back to you. And can you just quickly tell us?
Well, they do because I teach them the practical aspects of being a lawyer. And so what winds up happening is if they have challenges that they're not really ready for, they'll call me up. And in fact, my daughter had a friend who is an associate to be in a major law firm, and they gave her a problem. And she had no idea what to do. She came to my office. I gave her the arguments, polished what she wrote, and she got an offer on the spot. And I said, gee, I could get an offer at one of those firms, even though I've been practicing for like 20 years.
Wait, one more thing I have to add, and then I know we have to go. But I just want you to know, you might think that this is Freddie Fenster, but this is really Henry Winkler sitting next to me. Take a really close look. No, wait, don't make that.
Okay,
Yes.
so I will tell you the story that Henry
I
Winkler,
see it.
I know. It's amazing.
So Henry Winkler and I had Laker tickets side by side. And I used to get asked for Henry's autograph more often than he did. So Henry said to me one day, Fred, I'm taking you everywhere I go. Nobody's going to bother me.
Oh, that's
Freddie.
great.
That's a great story.
Freddie, how can people get a hold of you? Do you have a website?
Yeah, I'm at a firm called Greenberg Glusker. And if you were to look my name up on the internet, you would find me immediately there. And I'm reachable.
And we'll put up all your information so people can find out and contact you, because this is the guy to talk to, especially if you're going to be talking to your family and sitting them all down.
Love it. Freddie, thank you so much. Thank you for taking the time to share all your great words of wisdom.
Anytime. Thank you again.
This was great fun.
Oh, Freddie, you're still here. Okay, give us another nugget or words of wisdom.
As I tell my students in class, you have to be very attentive to what your client says because that's the story they want you to understand. The question to ask is, what's the other side going to say? That's when you really need to start listening.
Love that. And you know what? That applies for more things, not just law.
Sure.
Like your husband.
Well, logic exists in vacuum. I mean, that's the whole point.
Oh, the law will not exist at home.
Oh.
All right, we've got to close. Thank you all for joining us. If you want to reach Elaine and I, join us on our socials at Deep Diving Divas, or watch us on YouTube or our podcast at Deep Diving Divas. Until next time, thank you again, Freddie. Thanks, Elaine.
Bye.
Bye.